Hello, my name is Amogh and I'm in seventh grade, and I think we should start with the podcast right now. Could you please introduce yourself for the audience before we continue our topic, which is going to be generative AI?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys, everyone. My name is Rishi, and I'm a student here at University of Paderborn in Germany. And currently, I am a student research assistant at Fraunhofer Institute. Fraunhofer Institute, for your viewers who do not know, it's a big German public research institute, and it has several branches spread out all around Germany. And I think one or two institutes are there in Boston as well. And all the institutes are doing different works. For example, there's an institute for physics, there's an institute for solar energy, there is an institute for mechatronics, and so on. So I'm doing my master's also in the field of computer science and specializing in artificial intelligence, machine learning topics. And part-time also, I'm an instructor at MasterJi. And yeah, that's all about myself.
Alright, yeah, that's great. Um, could you start by explaining to our audience who doesn't really understand what generative AI is? So could you start by explaining what generative AI is and how it differs from other types of artificial intelligence?
So basically, generative AI is, you can say it falls under the category of artificial intelligence only. So to say that it is, I mean, it uses all the basics of machine learning, all the basics of deep learning, but it's now, it's a fancy term that has been coined, especially by, scientists. So it does not differ from artificial intelligence. It's just that it is doing something else, which the normal artificial intelligence is not able to do. So, for example, when we are talking about normal machine learning, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we start with like machine learning. So, machine learning is like normal mathematical algorithms and tools which you need to learn in order to do some tasks. Now, a much more advanced version of machine learning is what you call as generative AI, in which the models that we are using in machine learning, we used small models. Now in generative AI, the model size becomes big, the models become more complex, and basically the models are, they're creating something new. The models are trained on data in such a way that they create something new for us. So for example, let's say we have a model on which we train on data to create some image for us, to create some audio for us or a text for us. Unlike normal traditional machine learning, which was doing some basic tasks as to um, you know like text classification or some normal classification task, or maybe stock price prediction, like that. But here in generative AI, the magnitude of the problem has risen. Like we are talking of very large, complex models, very large models,
Wait,
and those large
models
models are
actually,
creating us some new stuff. Yeah.
what do you mean by models? What are those
So
models composed of?
So a model, you can say, is generally your neural network. If you have heard this term as, the term called neural network, which you learn under the topic of deep learning. So to explain to your viewers in very simple word, a model is something that does a particular task for us, right? So for
Yeah,
example, if you let's say, if I ask you to define a straight line, so there is a straight line, but in mathematics there is an equation of a straight line,
yeah.
right? So for example, a circle. Now, for small little kids, a circle is a shape, but for mathematician, a circle is an equation, a mathematical equation. So in normal terms, we use the term model to explain better to the other people. But in reality, a model is nothing but a complex mathematics that is working
Just
behind the scene
a big
to create
mathematical
something.
equation. All
Exactly.
right. Okay, so I think yeah, that might clear it up a bit for anybody who's interested in mathematics. So yeah, I've seen mostly like especially as in the Bay Area, which is where I'm right now,
Mhm.
I see like lots of buzz around AI and so many like new startups are like and existing companies are incorporating AI into their
Mhm.
business. Some businesses are fully meant for AI.
Mhm.
So, are there any things that you've seen that stand out? Like any applications of Gen AI that you've seen that have standed out a lot?
Well, I think is the invention of what you call as ChatGPT. Now,
Yeah,
right?
isn't it
So I think all of us has used
isn't it
ChatGPT, but
model?
actually, ChatGPT is basically based on a model called GPT, which was which was developed by the scientist long before ChatGPT. But it's a ChatGPT that gives user an experience to talk to the model, to talk to the what do you call this technology. So now after ChatGPT, you can say that is the biggest you can say an application that everyone is using these days. And after ChatGPT, several other companies and research institutes started to develop their own models. And then, once those models got developed, then, the people actually saw the possibilities of creating other things. So ChatGPT is basically only text-based. For example, it is a Gen AI, a tool in which you input a text and you get a text outside as an output. But then people thought that, okay, let's do it for the image generations also. Let's do it for video generations. Let's do it for audio generations. So now when they saw that, okay, if we have achieved this much that it can be used to generate text, people started to experiment out with this. And they started to see if this particular thing can be, embedded in creating next generation of, let's say, mobile apps or websites or something. And
Yeah.
then basically new frameworks to develop next generation of websites actually emerged. To give you a few examples, you can check it online. There's something called AutoGen. Then there's something which is developed by Microsoft. Then there's another thing called Crew AI. Then there is another thing called LangChain. So these are like several frameworks, if you have heard about them, that specifically uses these Gen AI models to create new apps. So basically now I can see and it's not only restricted to the Bay Area. I think everyone in India, also everyone in almost in Germany, all these things are in great demand. And specifically, if you're very well aware of these tools, then you can try your hands in these in the job market.
Yeah, I've heard that like lots of people are also like worried about uh their jobs being like taken from AI because
Mhm.
there are some stuff that AI can do that humans can also do and that could be replaced, such as like writing an email to a coworker or something.
Yeah.
That ChatGPT can do that easily. Maybe it needs some fine tuning, but lots of people are getting worried about the security of their jobs now that there's something uh, easier to use and faster,
Mm.
and they don't really have to pay that much. But another thing I've also noticed from the other side is that there's examples of AI still being like naive and it's not at its strongest right now because there's still a long way to go. So while there is progress, AI still is like in its junior phase.
Yes, I agree with you. Basically, it's just only 2 years ago that we actually got to see ChatGPT. As I've already said, the GPT was actually developed before that. So I agree with you that there's a lot of research that is going on, lots of investments by the governments, by the private sector also in this field. And the scientists, like everyone around the world, are exploring, the possibilities of it. And you can say that things like we have it at hand, let's say GPT 3.5 we are using, and some of you might be using, let's say, um, Google Gemini also. So, and there's, I think, also another tool by Microsoft which you can use. I don't remember the exact name of that tool, or
I'm
maybe
pretty sure it's,
I think it's called Microsoft Copilot. So,
yeah, and then there was
yeah, and then there is a Claude. Claude, I think, is not available in Germany as of now, last I checked.
right from Claude, right?
Yeah,
It's by a company called Epic.
okay.
So yeah, I recently heard about Claude. It seems to be a little bit maybe better than ChatGPT, but I haven't really went into Claude that much.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean, they're testing their models and comparing their models on different benchmarks and different things. So yeah, whatever we have right now at hand, that particular thing needs to be perfected before we go on to develop something else.
Yeah, and I also realized that I think AI it's happened really fast. 2 years, then ChatGPT happened, and now there's a big like you could say arms race, except there's multiple competitors, each trying to create their own better AI model, right?
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that with such like speed and like high progression, there wasn't enough time to set down some like ground rules for AI or some like concrete ground rules because I've noticed that for example, for art and music, which
Hmm.
is so models they get data, and sometimes that data can be taken without crediting whoever like generated that data. For example, there have been deepfakes basically is like a AI generated voice of a person.
Hmm.
So there have been fakes of celebrities, and some of them can be extremely realistic,
Yeah.
and they take a lot of data. And there's also have so there could be privacy rights for that because technically that model is using your voice or how you look
Yeah.
could threaten some laws that we have. Also, for example, there have been songs generated by AI and sang by deepfakes that could have potential to generate revenue,
Hmm.
which would be like taking away revenue from the original artist, right? So
Yes,
that could
you're
also be a problem.
correct. That is
Same thing with
that,
art.
yeah, that's
So
a
do
very good
you
point that
agree
you
that
pointed out.
would you agree that there should be some ground rules that should be laid down and some ethical considerations to be made?
Yes, I think what you pointed out is one of the most crucial challenges that the scientists, the governments, and the businesses all around the world they are figuring out. And like you said, that although the technology can be very beneficial for day-to-day use and seeing the vast possibilities of the technology, but it also has its own challenges. I think most of the challenges that you have already pointed out in the question itself. Yeah, like for example, I can give you an example. There is a famous this website that has come, which I just came to know about recently, just last 2 or 3 months ago. It's called Suno.ai,
Yeah.
Suno.ai. You might have heard about it. So it generates music. All you just have to do is to give it a prompt. Okay, what type of music you want? Let's say I want an Indian classical music based on, let's say you give a small little prompt of 2 to 3 lines, and it generates really good music, for you. And now I think that, you know, um, the musicians who actually had to study a lot of music before creating music, now they can
Have
actually take help of those apps. And it's not only
yeah.
restricted to the musicians, like we people, like you pointed out in the question about the HR. They don't have to write lengthy emails now. All they can do is just to,
A prompt.
give, asked the language model to generate a mail for them, and it does a pretty good job. And what you mentioned in your question about privacy and data privacy, yeah, that is a very big challenge for us, for the governments as well. So as to how the data needs to be collected, what should be the rules defined to collect the data, and you can say if the data is collected is, let's say, an accurate data or not. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing in this. And if the data being collected from individuals, have the individuals been
Yeah,
asked,
if they have like
have given
consented
their
to
consent.
that
Exactly.
data. To,
And the most important part is that even if they have given their consent, they still want their identity to be hidden. So we have to, apply a lot of, you can say, anonymization techniques in order to hide the identity of the individuals. And then comes the, you can say, the topic of data security, because the data, as you say, is the new oil, which is like most of the people, they want data. You might have also seen companies giving billions and billions of dollars to one another just to get the data of the
yeah, to get
individuals.
the. So yeah, one thing I've noticed is that actually quite recently, uh,
Hmm.
one AI language model has, I think ChatGPT, yeah, ChatGPT has made a deal with with a website called Reddit to get a lot of information from that website. And if you don't know, Reddit is like a place, it's like a forum where you can ask questions, and
Hmm.
people from all around the world can answer those questions.
Yes,
So that could be a problem though, is
exactly. Because
that
see,
information is answered by other people who might not be, like, credible, right? They might not
exactly.
have, like, credibility.
Again,
So
a
that
very good
there's
point.
some hallucinations in AI, which is something that I also wanna talk about. So have you seen any, like, for your information, hallucinations are, like, when AI makes mistakes or says something that when
Exactly.
checked. Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
have you seen any interesting hallucinations?
like I would like to start with from where you started this point. So yes, ChatGPT specifically has been trained entirely on data collected from internet, and specifically your Reddit. And I would say that in Reddit, I have, as long, as so many things I've read on Reddit based on different topics, I would say it's not the most accurate platform, but most of the things that I read, it's fairly decent, but I would say not 100% accurate. And this is where this, the problem of hallucination arises. So basically, your model is producing factually incorrect and nonsensical data. So
Yeah.
if I were to quote my personal experience about whether I saw hallucinations, I think when I first used ChatGPT way back in 2022, I think it was September or November when it was released, I just asked it to make a joke on some, on some religious figure. So it made that joke, although it was factually incorrect, first of all, and it was not very hilarious. So it felt to me as a little offensive. So that is, you can say, a very good example of hallucinations. So that I experienced. Although when after a few months I asked the same query to make a joke on the religious figure, on a god, it said that I cannot make that joke because it might hurt the sentiments of people who are, who have believe in that religious entity. So that means
Mm.
that they might have improved their training. They might have tuned their model so that it removes those hallucinations. But yes, hallucinations can occur. After all, one cannot ensure that the data is 100% factual, because if you look at the sheer size of the data set on which the models are trained, it's so huge, it's such a vast, and vast volumes of data, that one cannot be 100% sure that it is accurate. So once we get to know all these corner cases, then the model is of course fine tuned, and those bits of or chunks of data is removed from the data set, and then the model is retrained again to remove all those hallucinations. I
Yeah.
hope that answers your
So
question.
yeah. Uh, if I could, yeah, from my perspective, I've only seen pretty harmless hallucinations because I didn't really, when I first got a hold of ChatGPT,
Mhm.
I didn't really I didn't really try to see how much I could push its limits. I was only using it for yeah, super sorry about that. There was just a
Ah, no.
small problem right there. Okay, so where was I? Yeah. So when I first got a hold of ChatGPT or any model, I generally used it for day-to-day purposes when I was like trying to find information or trying to summarize some text. It's been like a couple of months since I've actually tried to push its limits, and in that I've seen some stuff where if you it's pretty harmless, but if you ask questions about some obscure stuff, some very obscure things that don't really are mentioned in the internet, it might give an inaccurate answer. And also, if you and also another thing is that when I was talking to ChatGPT specifically, I asked it a question saying that I said 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, and then ChatGPT was like, no, that is incorrect. But after enough time saying that 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, you were wrong. Then slowly and slowly, the response was modified. But it was for only that specific chat. If I opened a new chat, then it would completely erase.
Exactly. Now that's I'm like that's very good to see that you actually explored its limits, and yeah, it has been seen that when you're actually querying something from ChatGPT, I think I do not know exactly, but what I have what I feel is that it also goes through the training as it is interacting with its users, and every time it is interacting with the users, it is again getting trained or again getting learned learn the learning process is going on, but I'm not 100% sure whether that is an accurate information or not. So I cannot justify if it is if it is the case, but what you have said, even I have experienced it. um, for example um, I asked ChatGPT to write me, let's say I gave it a query to write me a small text of 250 words, of at least 250 words on a particular topic. I would say it did not give me a most accurate answer because I needed at least 250 words, and on some occasion it gave me less words, on some occasion it gave me more words. So these small things happens, and it generally tells you that there are some loopholes still exist. So we can say that it's not the most accurate technology available, but only a fairly decent technology, not the most accurate. Yeah.
So, if I recall, you said that you were creating your own model. Am I wrong or?
No, no, no. Creating a new model is something very it's a challenge, and surely not a large language model, because for that you need billions of dollars of investments if you want to create a large language model. I'm just exploring some small little frameworks, like I mentioned in the starting of your talk, about something called AutoGen, something called True AI, which basically have the frameworks are built to harness this power of language models uh, and to create something that you need. So this is what I'm like doing. I'm still in my exploration phase, not to create anything concrete. I'm just as much as a student in this field as you guys are.
So, also, can you explain to the audience why large amounts of data is required for such AIs, like for example, ChatGPT?
So yes, so it for like if you want to do something, it all depends on what you want your model to do. If you want to give an exam, let's say of grade 6, that much training is required. Bare minimum training is required that you can pass your grade 6 or grade 7 exam. But then after that, later on in your life, when you're appearing for your SATs to go to universities, then you have to give that much, a more amount of input, more amount of working hours to, to produce those results. Now, what we are expecting from a large language model is to generate something new, generate an image for us, right? So for doing that, such a complex task for a machine is like it's impossible. So, to create a video for us, for example, for instance, or a text for us. So because the complexity of the task is so much that for that, the model needs to know exactly um, what it has to do. And for that, for producing that result, it has to be trained on huge volumes of data, huge volumes of data. For example, in a normal uh, I'm not talking about generative AI. In a normal artificial intelligence model, a deep learning model, where the model just has to classify, let's say, whether a given image is that of a dog or a cat. So I would say a data set of, let's say, 10,000 images is like a very small data set, right? It's a very, you can say, a very small data set, 10,000 images of a cat and dog. And once I train my data, I train my model on this particular data set, then I can expect my model to give to give me an accurate answer if I feed my model with a new image, whether it belongs to a cat or a dog. Now we are
Mm.
talking about a model creating something new. Let's say I want an image of, let's say, of myself standing on the moon. Now,
Then you need more
on the
than
moon, on the surface of the moon. Now, the model has never been trained to produce something, a person standing on the moon, but it grabs some of the things that it has been trained on. Maybe it has seen a lot of images of myself, of me. Maybe it has been trained in images of the moon, and then it might also sense that okay, the query is about a person standing on the moon, and based on that, it calculates everything, and then it generates an image for you. So to cut short, you need a complex task to be done. You need a lot of amount of data.
Yeah. So I guess that explains it. So thank you for that. Uh, Moving on. So obviously, so I remember when uh, I'm gonna talk about ChatGPT right now. So when ChatGPT first came out, I'm pretty sure it came out as a while after it came out. Yeah. So a while after ChatGPT came out, a new version was released called ChatGPT 4.
Mhm.
However, that version was locked behind a paywall, so you'd have to pay to get access to that version. And now, recently, they are giving anybody who hasn't paid for it a free trial of ChatGPT 4. So have you experimented with ChatGPT 4, or if you've had it in the past, do you think it's worth it?
Um, I have just, I've not personally experienced ChatGPT 4, but some of my friends had the subscription of ChatGPT 4. So I
Mm.
saw what other possibilities lied with it. So, for example, ChatGPT 4, you can upload an image on ChatGPT 4, the 4 version, and basically the model can explain you the stuff that is there in the image. For example, if you want to, to know the explanation of a complex chart, let's say a graph. So you upload that graph on GPT, and the GPT, tells you very, not 100% accuracy, but it gives you a very good idea of what this chart is. So that means it has the capability of reading the image as well as, you know, uh, interpreting it. I could, upload a PDF file on a chat GPT. For example, one of my friends experimented with it. So we were to appear in an exam, and our professor had given us a PDF of the particular chapter or topic. So he uploaded that PDF on chat GPT, and he said, okay, give me 20 questions based on this PDF file. So immediately, within just few seconds, GPT, uh, maybe it read the PDF file, which was around 70 odd slides, and based on the 70 odd slides, it produced, let's say, he asked for 20 questions. It produced 20 questions from that PDF. So these capabilities do not lie with GPT-3 version. It lies with GPT-4. So
Mhm.
this is how you can say, because it has this DALI E model, which is an image-based model embedded in it, which basically deals with all the images, image interpretation, and and all those things. So I would say that it has like more capabilities, advanced version of GPT-4. But as far as its capability of text generation is concerned, then I think it is almost the same as GPT 3.5. But again, I have to look into the latest, the charts as to how accurate it is, how more advanced it is on different parameters, like its reasoning parameter and its accuracy, and whether it is hallucinating as much as 3.5 used to, and all those things. And yes, unfortunately, it is a paid subscription. So, like OpenAI claimed itself to be open, but it's not open anymore. So we cannot really help it. We're just the users, and it's just the management team of OpenAI or Microsoft now that decides for it. But I would have wanted it to have a free version.
Yeah, so I think, yeah. So Linkesh, is if that's how you pronounce the name, has posted a question in the chat, and to answer it, so
Okay.
I would say, yeah, GPT-4, it's obviously image. It can detect. It can take images as prompts and write about images, and it's more accurate than uh, GPT 3.5, but I'm not sure about what's the difference between GPT 4 and 4.0. I have a theory that GPT 4.0 is enhanced version of GPT 4 with less hallucinations. So if that answers your question, then that's great.
Exactly. And to over to that, I think you can simply watch the GPT-4o video on on YouTube.
YouTube.
The most famous one that I actually liked was that of the Khan Academy, if you know about the Khan Academy. And he actually,
Falcon posted.
yeah, solving a question of mathematics along with his son, where the GPT-4o model actually acted as an assistant, and whatever questions was being asked in voice command, it was able to understand that voice. It was able to interpret the speech and reply back in speech. So it has speech recognition capabilities also, unlike in GPT 3.5, which is only a text-to-text model. So it's pretty much more advanced than the GPT 3.5. Um, I'm waiting for the GPT-5, which everyone is talking so much about, and OpenAI wanted to launch it, but I don't know what has happened with it.
Yeah, I think since OpenAI has is OpenAI, yeah, I think there's some new restrictions because they want to like stagger it, give more anticipation for GPT-5. I think
Mhm.
that's what my theory.
Yeah.
All right, so also I'm thinking about it from have you heard of some mis so like sorry. what misconceptions about Gen AI have you encountered? Like some main misconceptions?
So, regarding the misconceptions, again, every new technology that comes in the market has, you can say, has their misconceptions. One is, of course, the most common one is job loss. So many of
Yeah,
the
AI.
people think that people will lose their jobs as the models are able to do those small all the things. Although it's not only true, because the models right now is able to write a good email for you. But for any HR person who says that only because the model is able to write an email for the HR person, that the person will lose their job, no. There's lots of things that to be done in HR and in the HR. And if the coders think that they will lose their job because now the chat GPT can code small stuff out, but again, we need debuggers. Well, they're also working on the debugging stuff as well, I think. I think the Devin software engineer. But yes, job loss is one such thing, but I do not see. I think on the other hand, I would say more jobs will be created, because now you need to be trained on new technologies, and the
There's
old technologies,
there's people who are who are developing the models themselves. Those are some new prospective jobs.
exactly, exactly. And then the other misconception is that you can say that the models will start, the models will make the humans their slaves. This is a misconception, especially when we are talking about artificial intelligence. Well, it can be true, but to a very, very, very minuscule extent, because uh, we know the possibility that AI models do manipulate human beings. uh, that in their they analyze the behavioral pattern of the human beings, like if they're doing something online, they're shopping something, they're visiting, surfing some websites. So they do analyze what you're doing on internet and maybe customize those results for you. So to a minuscule level, they do manipulate you, but to say that, I have heard this misconception that humans can become slaves of the machines, specifically AI. I do not think that is true. And but it all comes down to people like you who are conducting this podcast, and your podcast will be seen by many people. You can spread awareness that these misconceptions are, you can say, not true at all.
Yeah, because uh, I would say right now people are thinking that ChatGPT is going to their jobs, but right now ChatGPT has been proven to think that 1 + 1 is equal to 3. So I think there's a long, long way to go.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, in terms of enhancing AI, do you think that people should go for an AI that is more human-like or something different? So in terms of developing the model and making it more and more accurate.
Yeah, I think that is the ultimate goal of the scientists, because if the AI model is not able to like think like us, or uh, understand the things like humans do, then you can say, well, there would be still a use of such model, but that model would be restricted to only specific use cases. Ultimately, new researches are, are being conducted around the world to make the AI models as human-like. For example, if you say, you can take the example of Google Assistant or maybe Siri. So they have, used human voices that can talk like humans, that can understand stuff like humans, that can respond to you like humans. So ultimately, you can see that particular aspect being reflected in the AI models, where uh, communication they are doing like humans. Now we want to make them think like humans. I do not know if that possibility can be achieved, but yes, the goal is towards making the models to be more efficient, and making the models to be more human-like.
All right. So yeah, also AI could have tech sorry.
Sure, your
So
voice is breaking.
also, my voice breaking?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
All right, okay, great. Sorry about that. Uh, Also, governments have been noticed to start trying to incorporate these AI models into their like system, and that could
Hmm.
also affect stuff like the army and espionage
Yeah.
because AI
Hmm.
could be used for warfare purposes. So, and also higher arms technology.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are the risks for an AI arms race between nations?
Uh,
Like, for example, if you have actually, yeah, no, for examples, but what do you think are the risks?
yeah, I mean, in arms race, surely AI has, you can say, has opened a new front for um, the countries to explore this particular technology as warfare, as arms. Uh, I was just reading online where some countries have developed models that they want to, analyze the behaviors of their enemy country and to get
Yeah.
as much as data about that country and to train their models on those data so that they are able to exploit the strengths and weaknesses of of those countries. And also you can say that nowadays it's the generation of fifth generation warfare, where you have to use a lot of information. You need a lot of information to spread incorrect information so that it creates a lot of you know you can say disturbances in your enemy countries. So yeah, such a threat still exists, because you can say, let's suppose say I make an AI model, like let's say I'm a bad guy and I make an AI model in which I train my model on all types of wrong things, a wrong interpretation of religious text, let's say, and I somehow
Yes.
publish data and it
So,
reaches my target audience. Now that is a very bad thing, because once that model is out in public, there's um, to control it, it's a lot difficult, because you cannot there are so many computers that exist in this world, and somewhere around the world some people might be using those models to learn something factually incorrect and so manipulative and so toxic in nature that they end up becoming bad guys. So not only about arms race, but it can be used about uh, third parties, terrorist organizations. So
yeah.
it is a such possibility does lie with that, and the governments, of course, have to figure out, to construct those laws and to ask the research institutes to carry out those steps that to make this particular things um, secure and don't go into the hands of the bad guys, as well as well, I cannot say about the government secretly using these tools to exploit the strengths and weaknesses of their enemy countries. But then again, if they're doing it, it should be within the legal framework.
Hmm. All right. So now for the $1 million question. Do you think AI can ever achieve true consciousness? So I think that's been a debate that a lot of people have been having. I myself has have had a debate with my friends about whether AI could have fully achieve uh, consciousness and sentience. So, what's your opinion on this?
Well, I can answer this question like, if I really want to define what consciousness first, if I were to go with the definition of ancient Indian people, like the saints of India, then
Yeah.
consciousness means you know everything in and out about your body, and not just your physical aspect, your mental faculties, everything is under your control. And it's a really interesting thing to know what the ancient Indians, the ancient saints could achieve. Regarding consciousness with AI, then to quote a fact, well, it's not a fact, but it's just a prediction that um, in 10 years, at the end of the decade, the IQ of an AI model would be 10 times the IQ of the most most intelligent person. I know that the IQ of Einstein was, I think, somewhere close to 150. So they said that the IQ of an AI model would be 10 times more than what the IQ of Einstein was. So in that aspect of consciousness, AI model will be will be more than what the human IQ would be. But in case of, like, let's say, emotional consciousness, like emotional question that the humans have, I think there will still be a lot of work to do to make the machines to understand the sentiments of the people, although I could say that some of the research is still going on in that field, to make the machines understand like uh, humans, behave like humans. I do not know if you have seen that movie Terminator, in
Yeah, I've
which
seen.
the last scene was when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the Judgment Day part, when he was going inside that hot bath of that hot liquid. So he started crying. So what does that mean? So the director shows that machine, after seeing something or being in a close proximity with the humans, started behaving like a human. Now it's just a movie scene. It's not in reality. But if there is a possibility that the machines so much trained on human emotions, maybe in future, but not in near future, maybe in distant future, can achieve that level of consciousness that we humans basically have. But I'm not talking about 10 years from now or 20 years, maybe a lot of
100 years or maybe
yeah.
more than.
Well, I do not know the exact timeline, or maybe there can be some research in which it can start behaving in the next 30 years. Who knows?
I
But
mean,
you won't be able to put a proper timeline to that.
yeah, taking account of, I guess, like taking in account of like how fast breakthroughs in technology are happening, especially in the 21st century, I would say it's somewhere in between 5 to 100 years that something like this could be replicated.
Well, that depends on the current research and the current scientists, and yeah, if they are able to remove all those limitations, then yeah, maybe it can be done in that much time. Maybe it can be done a little earlier. But we still have to see about it. See this, how fast they do.
Yeah, and another thing that AI could also have to do is that AI should be able to think of another, like I would say, if you were thinking of sentience as a checklist of things, another thing to add to that checklist would be AI. AI models should be able to they should be able to build upon themselves. So they shouldn't have to ask for data anymore. They should be able to learn from their past and like generate data.
Or what you can say is that, um, well, like a child is born and has to go through some period, some time of training before the child actually starts, you know,
Learning itself.
incorporating those habits in its daily lives, the person. In the same way, what you can say is that the AI models are made in such a way that after giving them initial level of data, which of course would be huge data, so that because they need that kickstart to actually behaving like actually producing something. And after that, when they are being trained and when they have been tested and they're producing some good accurate results, then you can say that maybe there comes a technology in which they no longer have to be specifically or manually being fed a new data. They can uh, you know generate their data, or maybe they can get the input of their data by just maybe listening to the humans around them. or so in that way you can say that they can start behaving like human beings. But I think that was what you mean to say.
Yeah, basically. All right. So, yeah, thank you. Uh, wait, am I muted? Okay. So I would say, yeah, I agree with you then. So, what? Give me a second. All right. So yeah, thank you for being part of this podcast and coming here to discuss about generative AI. And
Anyone else, any more questions?
yeah, so if anybody who is listening has any questions, if you want, you can like if you have any questions that you might want to ask Rishi, then you might want to type it in the chat. So uh or you could unmute and ask.
Yeah, you can unmute and ask anything that
Yeah,
you're
don't
interested in.
anything that concerns you. All right, then looks like nobody has any questions. So yeah, thank you for your time with us, and I think this is going to be the end of the podcast. This is going to be the end of the podcast for today.
Thank you
So
very
yeah,
much for having me on your podcast, and I hope that this podcast might have, given you some good knowledge. Although I would really appreciate, and I'm really happy to see that you already have such good uh, amount of knowledge on the topic itself. It shows that you have done your homework really good, and I really like the questions that have been uh, that have been posted to me, and that you asked me, and yeah, that was really good. That's a good opportunity for me also to see you young people in this interested in this topic so much.
all right then. Okay,
Okay then,
I
guys,
guess.
and bye bye.